Now, if you've been a fan of films for a while, you have undoubtedly heard the term B-movie used before. The true definition of this term has changed as its use has evolved over the years, but during the golden age of Hollywood, the term B-movie would usually refer to the lesser-known, lower-budget film that would most often fill the back end of a double feature. In short, a B-movie can generally be summed up as being of a smaller budget, often built on simplistic and recycled stories with minimal character work and thin, formulaic plotting. These movies frequently sensationalize elements and can at times incorporate exploitation-style themes. Westerns were a huge staple of B-movie cinema during Hollywood's golden age, but as the 50s came around and commercial television began to rise, second-build features began to dwindle at theaters in America. However, though, despite many production companies shifting to television, this was not the end of the B-movie. During the 50s and working into the 60s, really, the genres of horror and science fiction would see a boom in popularity in the B-movie market. From there, B-movie production houses would really lean heavily into martial arts movies as the 70s would come, and despite many B-movie studios closing doors or just being absorbed into larger production companies as the 80s would come, this era would actually see the rise of newer, smaller studios such as Carolco and New World Pictures and Cannon Films and others, which resulted in the genre of action seeing a big boom in B-movies. Now, that was just the quick nuts and bolts on what B-movies were for anybody who may have been curious before getting into this video. Personally, growing up, I was a huge fan of action movies. I spent just countless hours as a kid walking the action movie aisles at the video store, and some of my favorites were, in fact, B-movies. These movies usually ran a tight 90 minutes, featured a tough guy, plenty of violence, plenty of one-liners. They often came complete with a gratuitous sex scene or two, and young Anthony ate it up. So today we're diving into 10 B action movies that I still think deliver plenty of entertainment all these years later. This action movie came out in 1991 and starred Ken Wall as an aging star quarterback who gets caught in the middle of a scheme hatched by a group of corrupt cops who intend to use a fake chemical spill to rob luxurious homes of the evacuated citizens in The Taking of Beverly Hills, also starring Matt Frewer, Harley Jean Kozak, and Robert Davi. Now, this movie is like Die Hard, but instead of Bruce Willis, you get a lumbering football player, and instead of Nakatomi Plaza, it's all over Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive. This movie, I think, gives you all you could want from this genre. The villains plan to rob Beverly Hills by faking a chemical spill, which somehow does work for a while, despite being the dumbest crime idea ever. And this movie assumes that the best way to stop this hostage crisis is to throw an aging quarterback at it. I mean, seriously, our hero doesn't just fight bad guys, he's outsmarting them using, of course, sports logic instead of anything remotely normal. So our hero is taking an army of thugs out using shoulder blocks and precision aimed throwing and a ridiculous amount of explosions and throwing stars. The Taking of Beverly Hills is just unintentionally humorous, it's goofy, it's over the top, filled with explosive destruction, and Wall never even messes up his immaculate hair. What more do you need? Next up is a solid assassin movie from 1996 starring Dolph Lundgren as a skilled assassin working for a top secret agency that finds his newest mission altered when someone from his past shows up, causing them to suddenly become the mission's prime targets in Silent Trigger, also starring Gina Bellman and Christopher Heyerdahl. This movie does have its flaws, but I think the action is intense and effectively violent to pack a fun punch. I will admit, though, the uneven pacing can often make you feel like you leaned over and sat on the remote and hit the slow motion button because it's all by the book stuff, so it really needs to be a little bit more concise. Dolph Lundgren here plays this sniper. He's got the muscle mass of like 3 or 4 men and the emotional depth of a marble statue. The character count is very small, and for the most part, I do think that the single location of this plot does build some fun spots of tension. I do think Lundgren, though, spends too much time kind of brooding about his past. I mean, so much so he has flashbacks that actually interrupt what could have been a delightfully gratuitous sex scene. His partner spends most of the movie trying to figure out if she should kill him or make out with him, while Dolph kind of walks around looking like he could take down an entire army using his jawline. So, Silent Trigger does not reinvent the wheel by any means, but it does deliver plenty to entertain using all the usual betrayal and angst and sexual tension and hyperviolent gunplay with Dolph Lundgren whispering existential sniper wisdom. Before he was James Bond, Pierce Brosnan would play a bomb expert for the FBI who would be called in to work a case involving seemingly random incidents of spontaneous human combustion that is believed to be linked to an exotic liquid explosive in 1992's Live Wire, also starring Lisa Eilbacher and Ron Silver. I've always had a bit more of an appreciation for these movies that are built on comically absurd premises that are actually a little bit clever. Pierce Brosnan defusing bombs is cool, but Livewire, of course, has to take it a step further. What if people became the bombs? That's right, this movie is built around an explosive liquid that turns unlucky victims into human grenades. So if you drink some water, you could be an unwilling bomb in this movie, and the best part is, it treats the premise completely seriously. It's a mix of espionage and explosions and absolute insanity, and I think you will be surprised at how entertained you are by something that really makes no sense. Brosnan is defusing bombs with his sheer Irish charm. He's giving the sex scenes 100% energy and just laying on the melodrama thicker than a winter coat. It's packed with absurd action and explosions and fun stunts and moments where you just have to sit back and admire how the 90s really embraced cinematic nonsense. Also in 1992 would come a fun sci-fi action thriller starring Rutger Hauer as a cop relentless to catch the serial killer that took down his partner, only to realize he's hunting something from another world, and Split Second, also starring Kim Cattrall and Alastair Duncan. You take Blade Runner, you throw in a heavy dash of aliens, and you sprinkle in a little bit of Lethal Weapon buddy cop charm, then you got Split Second. Rutger Hauer here plays a caffeine-addicted, trench coat-wearing detective that's hunting a creature that really looks like it escaped from the conceptual designs of Aliens that didn't make the cut. This movie has everything, though. I mean, it's got climate change flooding, giant monster claws, revenge, a detective who just mainlines coffee and cigarettes like a truck driver. It's all silly stuff, but still a blast. London is flooded. People in this movie are getting ripped apart, and Hauer is out there just rocking a trench coat and sunglasses inside like just a hungover detective from a cyberpunk movie. It's just a mashup of different tropes that somehow manages to work for mindless fun, and by the time the final fight happens, you don't even care about the plot or the clunky editing. You just really want more of Hauer barking out sarcastic one-liners and ripping out alien hearts. Moving along, I have a war-themed action drama next up, centering on a group of young prisoners who are sent into Vietnam to rescue the kidnapped daughter of a wealthy businessman in 1995's Soldier Boys with a Z, starring Michael Dudikoff, Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, and Tyron Turner. Michael Dudikoff leads a team of criminals turned soldiers on a rescue mission that makes zero sense, yet somehow is surprisingly engaging and entertaining. This plot is so unintentionally amusing. It takes 6 criminals, gives them guns, drops them into Vietnam for a rescue mission, and that's it. The comical part is these guys go from inmates to highly skilled commandos in what seems like 24 hours. The movie never really explains why these random delinquents are better at war than trained professionals, but hey, details are never important when enjoying a 90s B-action movie. It's equal parts absurd, hilarious, and proof that in the 90s anyone could be a hero as long as they had that tough guy attitude, a little bit of grit, a bandana. Now, this movie does get way too self-serious, which does kill the pace in spots, but with a concise runtime, Soldier Boys delivers explosions, one-liners, and Dudikoff looking vaguely disinterested, making it just a textbook 90s B-action movie. Steven Seagal would punch his way into the 90s after the release of his first film in '88, and in this one he would play an IA detective investigating the mob that, after a brutal attack, awakens from a coma after 7 years and sets out for revenge. And Hard to Kill, also starring Kelly LeBrock and William Sadler. You gotta love Hard to Kill for just having the moxie to blend soap opera elements with a violent action movie. Steven Seagal spends half of this movie in a coma and still has ample time to rack up an impressive body count. After 7 years in a coma, Seagal awakes with a fantastic stage play beard and through the power of 90s action movie montages is able to get back up into full strength in what feels like just a week by punching wood and doing some mystical breathing and turning himself into a human incense burner. And of course, making love to Kelly LeBrock ain't gonna hurt either. And from here, this movie acts like the coma never really happened. It kind of goes through the motions of a revenge quest filled with bravado, absurdly choreographed Aikido moves, and random philosophical one-liners. The villains here, including the most cartoonishly corrupt politician ever, just really never stand a chance. It's peak Seagal, lots of whispery threats, slow motion Aikido moves, and a ponytail you just want to tug on to see if a Pez is going to pop out. Coming up next from 1993 is a gritty cop thriller about a young cop assigned to a super ultra secret unit of the LAPD that essentially operates like a vigilante death squad to take out criminals. In Extreme Justice, starring Lou Diamond Phillips, Scott Glenn, Yaphet Kotto, and Chelsea Fields. This cop thriller about a secret LAPD unit that enforces justice with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, to me, is a bit of a forgotten gem. I love these movies where there's these special units that are so extreme, and this one is, they might as well be playing by Mad Max rules. It's sort of like Training Day, but instead of moral dilemmas and consciousness, it's just kind of dudes kicking doors down and blowing stuff up and letting people know how off the reservation they are. Extreme Justice is just one of those pure machismo movies, and I think it holds up great. Phillips does spend most of the time trying to figure out if police brutality is bad, which, spoiler alert, it is, while Scott Glenn just, has that dead-eyed expression of a man who knows a guy like him in a movie like this ain't making it out alive. This movie tries to be a deep exploration of morality, but let's be honest, people come to a movie like this for shootouts, macho banter, and explosions. Glenn and Phillips are great together, and the grittiness in this forgotten little cop thriller still lands with an enjoyable impact. We fast forward to 1998 for this next movie, starring Patrick Swayze as an ex-trucker fresh out of prison for vehicular manslaughter who reluctantly agrees to take a job driving a truck filled with weapons from Atlanta to New Jersey. In Black Dog, also starring Randy Travis, Meatloaf, and Charles S. Dutton. Now, this movie certainly does have its issues. You could probably say that about every movie on this list, but Black Dog's always been a Swayze favorite of mine. He's that cool ex-trucker here who just wants to live his life, but of course gets roped into smuggling illegal guns, but that would be too simple for an action movie, of course, so he's also being chased by the FBI, the ATF, mobsters, and Meatloaf. Yes, Meatloaf, the singer, who shows up as the villain, which is honestly one of the best things about this movie, but even all that would not be enough for a 90s B action movie, because this movie throws in a trucker legend about the Black Dog, this ghostly figure that appears in the road when drivers are on the verge of madness, which somehow is not the weirdest part of this film, but it's a treat anyways. Swayze is really too good for this movie. He's handling everything with calm cowboy wisdom, and while the bad guys explode every time their car so much as grazes a curb, Black Dog is like an homage to the 70s chase movie. It's like a Smokey and the Bandit movie meets Mad Max, and with Swayze in the center of it, I think it's fantastic. We're stepping back to 1991 for a movie I would consider to be the Citizen Kane of B action movies. This one stars Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee as cops who will work together to bring down the Yakuza in Showdown in Little Tokyo, also starring Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa and Tia Carrere. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something about this movie I have always loved. Showdown in Little Tokyo is like 55% action, 40% tattoos, and 5% dialogue, and it just works. The chemistry between Lee and Lundgren is just buddy cop gold. Lundgren is the stoic giant with a full set of vanity muscles. Lee is the sharp, wisecracking sidekick. The by-the-numbers plot here is just perfect for connecting all the violent mayhem, the amusing feats of human strength and just the generic character work. I think Showdown in Little Tokyo is a movie that knows exactly what it is and just leans into the absurdity 1000%. It's filled with loads of over choreographed martial arts, just neon soaked action, a shirtless Dolph Lundgren wielding dual katanas. He's practicing in his home dojo and just sharing a soak with Tia Carrere. I think Tagawa is just the chef's kiss of movie villains here, and the scoring is perfect for inflating the just comically serious atmosphere of this movie that somehow manages to thrive because of all of its flaws. Next up is a comical little thriller from 1993. This one's probably more of a horror than it is an action movie, and I just wanted to add it anyways. It centers on a genetically engineered dog that is taken home by a reporter who has no idea she brought home a killing machine. In Man's Best Friend, starring Ali Sheedy, Lance Henriksen, and a giant Tibetan Mastiff called Max. What if Cujo was part Terminator? That's pretty much what Man's Best Friend is, a silly little movie where a genetically modified super dog goes on a murder spree. This dog climbs trees like a jaguar, pisses acid, and I'm not making this up, has a built-in cloaking device like the Predator. I mean, Ali Sheedy and Lance Henriksen, bless their hearts, they try their best, but the humans in this movie are so bad at decision-making that you sort of end up rooting for the dog not too long into the film, who at one point eats a cat whole like a python in just a comically absurd scene. This movie from the ground up is ridiculous, but you just have to admire the commitment here to making a killer dog movie with some gusto. There's plenty of amusing kills as this dog goes on the warpath. He even has time to hump the neighbor's collie, so this movie can end on a sequel tease that sadly never happened. I think we can all agree, cinema lost a true franchise that day. We're saddling up for this first movie from 1993, directed by and starring Mario Van Peebles. Posse claimed it was bringing the Wild West back with a vengeance, and it features an all-star cast of B-movie action tough guys with names such as Stephen Baldwin, Tiny Lister, Billy Zane, and a whole lot of bullets, justice, and style. Here, Mario Van Peebles rides into town with a camera, a cowboy hat, his buddies, and something to prove, and Posse delivers that proof with a high-octane, genre-flipping, racially charged spaghetti western that's got way more attitude than a saloon full of Eastwoods. Posse is part history lesson, it's part revenge saga, and all style, like if Tombstone started reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, because Posse is a film that says, what if the Old West had a lot more black excellence and a lot less John Wayne? And it's just a blast of nostalgia. There's a heavy whiff of classic Western tropes, from robberies to corrupt men in power in towns that desperately are in need of saving, but it's all filtered through a heavy 90s lens, complete with hip-hop swagger from start to finish and surprise appearances. Hello, Big Daddy Kane, I saw you in this one. The dialogue swings from serious to silly to self-righteous to melodramatic, and Billy Zane as the heavy is chewing the scenery like he's at an all-you-can-eat villain buffet. Posse is a little bit uneven, like a horse galloping with one leg shorter than the rest, but it's filled with action, complete with a final showdown that delivers a chef's kiss with a spurred boot. We're unleashing karate chaos with this next movie, Rapid Fire, from 1992. It's directed by Dwight H. Little. It stars Brandon Lee as a student trained in martial arts who gets caught up in a conspiracy, but when the mob comes after you, it's time to make your own rules and start kicking some serious ass with rapid fire velocity. Let's talk about Brandon Lee for just a second. I believe with his skill set, his on-screen charisma, and his good looks, had he not been tragically taken from us so soon, I think he would have given Van Damme a strong run for his money during the 90s in the action genre. Here in Rapid Fire, he plays Jake Lowe, a college art student, who accidentally witnesses a mob hit and goes on the run from pretty much everyone, including the corrupt feds and cops and Chicago mobsters. The plot here is, it's your standard wrong place, wrong time, perfect cheekbones scenario, but I think what easily sells this one is Lee, who just has a glint in his eye and a roundhouse kick with deadly accuracy. His charisma alone could have taken down these bad guys, but thankfully he has help from Powers Booth, because during this era, if you needed a morally ambiguous authority figure with a gravelly voice, then Booth was your man. The action sequences are great here. I think they're tight, they're aggressive, there's plenty of flair in them. There's gunplay, martial arts, acrobatics, plenty of dramatic slow motion shots. Is it groundbreaking? Not really, but the movie knows what it is, and it doesn't try to go too deep. It just wants to kind of kick, shoot, and gun its way through 90 minutes of pure 1992 B-action movie chaos, and for that, I salute it. Next up is I Come in Peace from 1990. This one stars Dolph Lundgren as a rogue cop who faces off against an intergalactic drug dealer, because when aliens come to Earth, it's not just your average space invasion, it's to deliver some serious pain. But when Lundgren is on the case, you may come in peace, but you're going to leave in pieces. If Lethal Weapon had a baby with Predator and that baby decided to sell drugs from outer space, then you'd get I Come in Peace. Dolph Lundgren plays a cop who's angry, enormous, and allergic to protocol. He's just chasing drugs one day, then an intergalactic drug dealer crashes the party and starts harvesting the endorphins from humans. So, classic cop problems. The alien's catchphrase is I come in peace, which it says right before killing people. So it's kind of like your Alexa telling you to have a great day before launching a compact disc right through your skull, because yes, this alien fires weaponized CDs, deadly spinning music discs of death. This shows the 90s truly had no chill when it came to movies. In this one, Lundgren is kind of perpetually annoyed, but I mean, who could blame him? He's got a by-the-book FBI partner on his ass, he's got an angry boss, and he's dealing with a spaceman that kind of looks like Fabio, who's just turning Houston into a battle zone. The buddy cop dynamics in this one are the textbook mismatched duo theme, but the movie is so gleefully weird you sort of forgive it. I mean, I Come in Peace is dumb in all the best ways: explosions, one-liners, bravado, ass-kicking, a plot that was probably written on a napkin, and it's world-class B-action movie cheese to this day. Get ready to get locked up, because this next movie, Fortress from 1992, directed by Stuart Gordon and starring Christopher Lambert, is taking us to the middle of a high-tech prison where inmates are injected with something deadlier than the corrupt system, and escaping has never been more dangerous or more entertaining than when Kurtwood Smith is in control. In a dystopian future where the biggest crime is having too many babies, Fortress introduces us to Christopher Lambert, a man who just wants to love his wife and raise his illegal second child in peace, but instead, he's tossed into a high-tech underground prison, a concrete nightmare ran by this sadistic and highly advanced AI system named Z10. There are explosive implants in everybody's intestines because subtlety died in the 90s. This movie also has laser walls and robot enforcers and torture cubicles that look like rejected IKEA chairs. And to me, Fortress is just a glorious cheese casserole. It's grimy and grim and filled with just weird sci-fi flourishes. The effects are certainly dated. The acting is somehow both wooden and sweaty, and the prison guards all look like they belong in like a Nine Inch Nails tribute band. But this movie moves. It delivers the goods, from rebellion to explosions to action to a completely bonkers final act filled with spectacle, making Fortress a gritty little cult gem that still delivers loads of effective B-action entertainment. We're heading to the big show for this next one from 1995. No Contest is directed by Paul Lynch and stars Shannon Tweed and Andrew Dice Clay and Robert Davi. When a beauty pageant is taken over and terrorists crash the show, the crown is up for grabs, and it's going to take more than a good showing in the swimsuit competition to come out of this night alive. Now imagine if Die Hard was held at a beauty pageant, and instead of Bruce Willis, we got Shannon Tweed, the queen of late-night erotic thrillers, doing spin kicks in a dress. That's No Contest. Here, Tweed plays Sharon Bell, a former model turned action star, which is very meta for this movie, as she's hosting the Miss Galaxy pageant, which of course is immediately hijacked by a group of goons led by Andrew Dice Clay. He's here for diamonds or revenge or to scream in his eyeliner. It's never totally clear, but what is clear is that Tweed has zero patience for his nonsense, and she promptly starts snapping necks in high heels. There's a ton of 90s nonsense here, from goofy tech to mindless dialogue and martial arts that looks like it was choreographed in a community theater beginners class. But despite its budget and it's just general chaos overall, the movie never blinks. It goes full throttle into its absurd premise, and it just lets Tweed carry the weight. Literally, I mean, she's suplexing guys down staircases and leaving no prisoner behind. No Contest is like junk food with lipstick, a fun, fiery mess where you can't help but root for the pageant queen with a roundhouse kick and a perfectly timed one-liner always ready to go. And you know what? Long may she reign. We're diving into the world of undercover police work and Komodo dragons for this movie. 1991 Stone Cold is directed by Craig R. Baxley and stars NFL badass Brian Bosworth along with Lance Henriksen and William Forsythe. This one is all leather, all mullets, tattoos, and mayhem, and it does not believe in subtlety. Now, if you've ever wanted to see a football player infiltrate a white supremacist biker gang while rocking a mullet that could slice bread, then Stone Cold is your dream come true. Brian Bosworth, the Boz himself here, stars as Joe Huff, a cop who goes undercover in a violent motorcycle gang led by Lance Henriksen, who kind of acts like a Shakespearean warlord trapped in a Guns N' Roses music video. The plot here is mostly just an excuse to get from one violent action-fueled set piece to the next, and honestly, thank God for that, because it's fantastic and it works. The Boz is wearing jeans that are tighter than national security, and he's carrying himself around in this movie like a man who just bench presses vending machines for fun. It all just culminates in a courtroom shootout involving motorcycles and machine guns and the casual destruction of constitutional law. It's utterly unhinged and deeply beautiful, and to me, Stone Cold is just an adrenaline and hairspray-soaked fever dream, one that throws logic completely out the window, then drives a flaming motorcycle through it for good measure. Up next, we're diving into supernatural action slasher territory with The First Power from 1990, directed by Robert Reznikoff and starring Lou Diamond Phillips as a relentless LAPD detective who faces off against a satanic serial killer played by Jeff Kober, who just won't stay dead because in the 1990s, evil always had its comeback tour. Lou Diamond Phillips stars in The First Power, a movie where a streetwise LA cop faces off against a serial killer who can come back from the dead as many times as he wants to, because apparently this guy didn't just dabble in Satanism, he majored in it with honors and also earned himself a minor in body hopping, which this film delivers as well. Phillips and Kober, bless their hearts, somehow managed to make all the silliness in this movie work. The plot is The Exorcist meets Lethal Weapon by way of Highlander, with psychics and creepy nuns and weird hallucinations, and Logan constantly getting his ass kicked by people who were friendly just moments earlier. And Phillips, to his credit, gives it his all here. He overacts a bit as well, but he keeps his rage on a hair trigger, which is perfect for this movie. And between the body hopping, the sadistic action, the cop tropes, and just the heavy reliance on pentagrams, The First Power somehow manages to result in a delightful supernatural cop noir nonsense. It's just, is it scary? Not really, but is it fun watching Lou chase a demonic ghost ninja all around 1990 Los Angeles while trying to look tough as well as a tad confused as to what he's doing in this movie? Absolutely. Next up, we're jacking into the cyberpunk fever dream that is Johnny Mnemonic from 1995, where Keanu Reeves uploads 320 gigs into his brain, yet still forgets where he puts his emotions. This one also stars Dina Meyer, Dolph Lundgren, Ice-T, and Henry Rollins, and it's directed by Robert Longo. It's the year 2021, and Keanu Reeves is Johnny Mnemonic, a man who is basically a walking, talking, ultra stressed out USB stick and a trench coat. Corporations run everything, people have tech diseases, and dolphins can fight cyber terrorism. Welcome to the future, baby. Johnny has 320 gigabytes of memory, which was a huge deal in 1995, loaded into his noodle, and now he has 24 hours before his brain leaks out of his nose, and everyone from Yakuza with laser wires to Ice-T's cyber rebel faction is out to either kill him or extract the data using hostile neurosurgery. The movie here tries to say a little bit about data privacy and human connection and corporate greed, but mostly says check out this dolphin wearing the helmet. There's a ton of so bad it's good in this one. Dolph Lundgren as a homicidal street preacher, cybernetic implants that look like a Radio Shack threw up, and a vibe that's just so aggressively 90s you can just smell the dial-up modems. Johnny Mnemonic is dumb, loud, vibrantly messy, and weirdly amazing. This martial arts fueled action flick stars Don the Dragon Wilson. This time he's an ex-cop who will take on the task of protecting a singer from a psychotic fan who just so happens to moonlight as a serial killer in Black Belt from 1992, also starring Deirdre Hodge, Matthias Hughes, and Victor Mojica. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a stalker thriller, a martial arts movie, and a bad soap opera fell into a blender and came out wearing fingerless gloves? Well, behold Black Belt. It stars Don the Dragon Wilson as an ex-cop hired to protect a pop star from an incest fan, so you can kind of think The Bodyguard, but with fewer ballads and more flying knees, because the stalker is none other than Matthias Hughes, fresh off his turn as an alien in I Come in Peace. Naturally, here the police are useless, so she hires Wilson's character, Jack Dillon, a man of few words, tighter jeans, and deadlier elbows. The plot here zigzags like a drunk squirrel. There are weird cult flashbacks, shirtless training montages, and moments where the dialogue seems to have been written by throwing darts at a wall of cliches, but of course, Wilson sells the martial arts, delivering spin kicks with the conviction of a man that's trying to act and balance on one foot. It's so low budget that at one point, I'm pretty sure they used a karaoke bar as a hospital, but it tries earnestly. Black Belt is cheap, mildly gratuitous, and completely ridiculous, but in that, how did I end up watching and loving this whole thing kind of way? This high-intensity action thriller came out in 1993, and it stars Thomas Ian Griffith as a detective who goes to war with the Italian mafia when $3 million goes missing after a drug bust, and when one man must take on the mob, he will need to use excessive force. Also starring Lance Henriksen, James Earl Jones, Tony Todd, and Burt Young, directed by John Hess. Excessive Force stars Thomas Ian Griffith as a Chicago cop named Terry McCain. He's got slicked hair, a trench coat, pleated pants, and roundhouse kicks that defy gravity and logic. In this movie, Griffith is delivering his lines like he's auditioning for a cologne commercial, but then he'll knock a guy through a windshield of a car before the scene can even breathe. So just makes this movie so much fun to watch. Lance Henriksen shows up because luckily for us, he was in almost every action movie during this era as a smirking mobster, and then we get James Earl Jones briefly lending the film some of his credibility before presumably cashing the check and ghosting the rest of the production. The dialogue here is just full of gravelly threats and testosterone-soaked metaphors. Fights are breaking out, gunplay is frequent, everybody's yelling, everything's exploding. The final act ends in just a glorious slow motion hailstorm of fists and kicks and melodrama. This movie's called Excessive Force, and it delivers. It's pure, sweaty 90s B-action movie silliness. You'll laugh, you'll want justice, and you'll be surprised at how much you just enjoyed something that you have seemingly already seen hundreds of times. Get ready for double the fists and double the attitude for this movie as Billy Blanks, an ex-CIA agent with amnesia, teams up with Hot Rod Roddy Piper as a PI to punch their way through a drug smuggling case in 1995's Tough and Deadly, directed by Steve Cohen. If Tough and Deadly were a protein shake, I'd say it'd be 80% testosterone, 15% slow motion spin kicks, and 5% Roddy Piper's absurd beard. This movie gives you Billy Blanks, the Tybo guy, roundhouse kicking his way through bad guys like he was choreographed to do so. Then there's Roddy Piper, the walking embodiment of let's just see what happens if I punch it or scowl at it, and together they form a buddy cop duo that deliver a surprising amount of silly charm. Now, as for the plot here, it's bad, who cares? There's something about amnesia, CIA secrets, and a never-ending supply of guys in suits just begging to be kicked through windows or doors or whatever is in their way. It's like someone saw Lethal Weapon, removed all the logic, quadrupled the fights, and said, now this is cinema. Every punch is over the top, every explosion looks like it was borrowed from a fireworks warehouse sale, and every bad guy is doomed. Tough and Deadly is a movie that constantly says, let's throw him through a plate glass window or off a rooftop, then walk away in slow motion, and to be honest, I can respect that. This slick little action thriller directed by Mark L. Lester stars Andrew McCarthy as an unlucky cab driver who steals a briefcase full of money found in the back of his taxi, but soon finds himself running for his life from a cold-blooded hitman sent to retrieve it, played by Scott Glenn in Night of the Running Man from 1995. Night of the Running Man is what happens when a cab driver accidentally becomes Jason Bourne. If Jason Bourne chain-smoked and wore tacky jackets, Andrew McCarthy stumbles into a briefcase full of mob money, and within minutes he's sprinting through Las Vegas like a man who realized taking it was a bad idea right after he took it. Scott Glenn plays a hitman on his tail. He's cool, calculated, and proof that not all actors are designed for quality sex scenes. This movie isn't flashy, but it certainly has style, the neon-lit alleys, the slick 90s pacing, and a script that somehow convinces us Andrew McCarthy is both charming and dangerous. It's just pure B-movie sorcery. This movie's like watching Collateral on a VHS tape you found in your uncle's garage. People get stabbed, chased, shot, and confused, and it's a blast. Night of the Running Man is a hidden gem with noir vibes and the kind of offbeat energy that makes you wonder why more people haven't seen it, to be honest. It's not trying to be high art, it's trying to be high tension, and for that aspect, I think it does knock it out of the park. The tagline of this movie claimed that if the lies didn't kill you, that the truth would, as a journalist fights to save lives after uncovering a terrorist plot. But luckily for us, this journalist is ex-Marine and human action figure Dolph Lundgren in 1991's Cover Up, also starring Louis Gossett Jr. and directed by Manny Cotto. Dolph Lundgren plays a journalist in Cover Up, which to no surprise is not the most unrealistic thing in this movie. He's investigating a conspiracy or a cover-up of some sorts, but fear not, there's still plenty of time for chase sequences and shootouts that make zero journalistic sense. In this movie, Lundgren is somehow both too smart for this role and way too jacked to be realistically doing interviews. I mean, Cover Up kind of feels like a movie that was definitely trying to make a political thriller early on, then decided somewhere halfway through to just start blowing everything up and tossing in some steamy Cinemax After Dark shower lovin' as a topping on the cake. The villain is constantly sneering, the conspiracies are vague, and every action scene feels a bit simplistic, but you know what? Kind of works. Gossett Jr. is way too good for this movie, but bless his heart, he takes it seriously. There's a certain charm in how Cover Up tries to be the Pelican Brief and ends up as the Pelican Brief, but with grenades. It's peak Sunday afternoon cable energy, and that's a vibe I'll always support. This action flick from 1999 starred Mark Dacascos as a soldier who goes undercover inside the military to stop a drug smuggling operation in a movie that delivers military justice with a side of explosions and ass-kicking for dessert in The Base, directed by Mark L. Lester. The Base is what happens when someone says, let's make a few good men, but with more punching and gunfire. Mark Dacascos plays a soldier who infiltrates a rogue military unit that's clearly more interested in war crimes than they are war drills. It does have that late 90s direct-to-video look to it. It's grainy, it's dark, it's just filled with guys yelling "sir" while loading weapons. Dacascos, always underrated, delivers some solid charisma here. He definitely doesn't have a lot to work with, but I think he does what he can with what he has to work with. The villains here are so exaggerated that you can almost smell the cologne coming from their loud shirts. There's a lot of yelling, a lot of case solving and shooting, and suspiciously deserted military bases. Clearly, logic takes a backseat to vibe, but you're not here to watch this movie for realism anyway. This is a B action movie that's much closer to In the Army Now than it is The Thin Red Line. The base may not be a classic and it feels like a TV flick, but it knows exactly what it is and it knows what the real mission was. Guns, grits, and justice, all delivered with a slow-mo boot to the chest, and sometimes that's all you need. Now, I will admit this one rides the line of being a B movie. It certainly had big studio backing, and some will say that it's definitely more horror thriller than action, but this gem from 1990 was just too awesome to skip. Ron Underwood's Tremors brings underground monsters, small-town grit, Ward's bulletproof charm, and Kevin Bacon's finest hair to a fantastic survival party out in the desert that still holds up today. Now, yes, I know Tremors is technically not a tried-and-true B movie, its sequels certainly are, but I still think that Tremors on its own has enough B movie campiness to be worthy of a slot on this list. It's a fantastic, action-packed creature feature, but I mean, come on, giant underground graboids, Kevin Bacon and his big heart belt buckle, Fred frickin' Ward and the Gummer's wall of guns. It earns an honorary B action movie badge in my book. The town of Perfection, Nevada is attacked by giant graboids that hunt by sound, and it's just up to a bunch of regular small towners to fight back. This includes Reba McEntire with a shotgun and Michael Gross channeling his NRA survivalist energy so intense he's probably somewhere in a bunker right now making his own ammo. The effects here are practical and glorious. The humor is sharp. The pacing is tight. It's a popcorn movie that just knows exactly what it is and thrives on that. Tremors is like Jaws in the desert. If the shark could tunnel under your house, it's suspenseful, it's funny, completely ridiculous, and surprisingly clever for a movie about dirt snakes. It's Boy Scouts versus Bullets in this forgotten gem from 1991 about a group of scouts who find a cache of weapons, stumble into an arms smuggling operation, and end up in the fight of their lives, all within a tight 89 minutes in Edge of Honor, starring Corey Feldman and Meredith Salinger, directed by Michael Spence. Boy Scouts with guns instead of slingshots. That's Edge of Honor, a movie where a group of teens stumble into a weapons smuggling ring and suddenly go full Red Dawn, sort of. I mean, if Red Dawn brought us the Wolverines, then I sure as hell think Edge of Honor delivers us the Honey Badgers. It's got Corey Feldman doing his best action hero face, a forest full of armed thugs, and enough plaid to clothe a 1991 Pacific Northwest family reunion. The acting is enthusiastic but raw, the stunts rough around the edges yet definitely enjoyable, but the commitment, I think it's impeccable. The tone just veers wildly between coming-of-age drama and we're going to war, boys. It shouldn't work on any level, but somehow it kinda does. Think Stand By Me meets Commando after 3 cans of Jolt. Edge of Honor is weird, it's wild, it has Patrick Swayze's brother in it, and it's exactly the kind of movie you'd watch on cable at 2 a.m. and wonder if you dreamt it. But you didn't. It's real, and it has teens wielding rocket launchers. We're taking the action to the skies for this movie from 1992 about a group of hijackers who take over a plane to free an international terrorist, only to learn that Air Marshal Wesley Snipes is on board. Snipes always bets on black, and that's bad news for the bad guys in Passenger 57, directed by Kevin Hooks. So Passenger 57 is basically Die Hard on a plane, except Wesley Snipes isn't in the vents, he's sitting in seat 57, he does have his shoes on, and he's smoother than your first in-flight beverage on a long trip. Snipes' character also comes complete with a tragic backstory and a candlelit workout montage, which leads right into the terrorist promptly hijacking a commercial flight. Snipes also plays an anti-terrorism expert who just so happens to be on board this plane, which is bad news for the terrorists, but good news for us viewers because Passenger 57 just delivers a cheese platter of one-liners, adrenaline-pumping fistfights and cramped spaces. The villain is just a theatrical British lunatic with a highly punchable face who really steals the show. I mean, this guy's dialogue is absurdly entertaining, as is his delivery. The supporting cast is full of disposable action movie cronies that Snipes can take out. The plot is made of 100% recycled material, but really, who cares? Snipes carries the whole thing with gusto like a legend. It's fast, it's fun, it's over before the drink cart can come back around, and to me, it's just a classic in the I remember renting this from Blockbuster category. Next up, we're jumping to 1993. A gang war has caused violence to run rampant in Los Angeles, and a former cop is going to be pulled back into the fight. Bad news for gangbangers because this cop is Jeff Speakman, and he packs fists of fury in Street Night, where the streets are mean, the gangs are ruthless, and justice knows karate. The perfect weapon himself, Jeff Speakman returns in Street Night, bringing his patented mix of bulletproof bangs, deadpan stoicism, and lightning-fast Kempo skills. The plot here, it's vague, something about some gang wars and some frame-ups, but all that matters is Speakman is the only man who can karate his way to justice. Now, does Street Night reinvent the genre? No, but I don't think it had to. It's about a fast pace with its clean strikes and its violent action and its dangerous bad guys and one man with serious spin kick energy. That's really all it needs. This movie is so heavily recycled that Street Night even borrows a line from another action movie for its closing hero one-liner. But still, it's a good time. This movie's drenched in early 90s urban grit, like someone smashed Boys in the Hood and Hard to Kill together, then just added a turtleneck to the hero. Speakman doesn't speak much in this movie, but when he does, it's either amusingly superficial or socially awkward, which isn't really a deal breaker since he frequently will kick someone in the head soon after anyways. Now, Street Night is low budget, sure, but Speakman's moves I think are legit. The movie takes itself just seriously enough to sell all the B-action nonsense, and despite its flaws, I still think it's a good time. Moving along, also from 1993, is an undercover-themed action thriller where Charlie Sheen grows some highly questionable facial hair and infiltrates a deadly biker gang. In Beyond the Law, a testosterone-soaked ride of leather, tattoos, unprotected sex, and two-wheeled lawlessness, also starring Michael Madsen and Linda Fiorentino. In Beyond the Law, Charlie Sheen dives headfirst into biker gang chaos as an undercover cop who goes deep undercover, like grows a beard that would take most men years, and forgets who he is deep. It's based loosely on a true story. It's surprisingly gritty and grimy for a Sheen-led project. He's sweaty, he's paranoid, and covered in leather, which is kind of the whole aesthetic here. Michael Madsen is great as the gang's unhinged leader. He's delivering menace like he orders it wholesale. This movie delivers violence and betrayal, a heartwarming sex montage, and just enough motorcycles to open up about 5 dealerships. And to be honest, this isn't a cheesy action flick. Some would say it actually leans more as an indie movie than it does a B movie, as it veers real heavy into the drama thriller space, but it's still soaked with just shootouts and tough guy machismo and biker brawls, plus Sheen's transformation from clean-cut cop to full-on road warrior is genuinely wild to watch. This movie is like Stone Cold meets Donnie Brasco. It's got heart to it and a lot of grime and just enough insanity to me to earn its B action stripes. In this 1997 action thriller, Keenen Ivory Wayans goes from elite soldier to fugitive target, and when the government frames you, you have to fight back, and when you have to fight back, you Do It With Style and Most Wanted, directed by David Hogan and also starring Jon Voight. Keenan Ivory Wayans in a serious action role. Surprisingly, Most Wanted does make it work. He plays a Marine sniper framed for an assassination, then spends the rest of the movie dodging helicopters, dodging bullets, and dodging plot holes. This movie had a larger budget for sure, but it has B action tropes lining it from start to finish. Jon Voight is here to choose scenery as the evil government guy, and Jill Hennessy adds the reluctant ally with PhD energy. It's a pure cat and mouse thriller with far more shootouts than common sense. It's pretty much all borrowed, and I will admit Enemy of the State does this premise so much better just a year after this one, but I still think the action in this movie pops visually. Wayans is handling the action like a semi-pro, cracking just enough wise throughout without turning it into a parody. There's rooftop chases, daring escapes, and a lot of don't overthink it moments, and Most Wanted doesn't break new ground at all, but it's slick, it's fast, it delivers the action goods. It's like The Fugitive got hit in the head with a VHS copy of Eraser, and it's still easily engaging. Here, Stephen Baldwin trades his badge for bullets when he joins the Scar Squad, a group of vigilante cops that dispense harsh justice. And with this group, moral lines are more like moral suggestions. In 1998, Scar City, known to some as Scarred City, also starring Tia Carrere and Chaz Palminteri. Now, to me, Scarred City is that late 90s urban thriller that kind of tried to walk the line between being a gritty cop drama and a bullet-spraying B-action spectacle, while occasionally just shooting the line nicely. Here, Stephen Baldwin stars as this detective that's got an attitude problem and a troubled past. He's a loose cannon, and after getting drafted into this shady police hit squad, things of course spiral into a morality tale of violence and slow-motion walks and smoky lighting and gunplay that really just feels like it belongs in a John Woo starter kit. Baldwin, to me, is just peak Baldwin here. He's equal parts gruff and bewildered with a performance that kind of constantly flirts with self-parody, but somehow still keeps you watching, while Chaz Palminteri plays the kind of corrupt boss who just clearly knows he's in a B-action movie and is just soaking up every minute of it. Film's aesthetic is a pure mid-budget 90s cool with washed out colors and a saxophone-laced score and characters that have terrible aim. Scarred City may not revolutionize the genre, but it has that slightly unhinged energy to it that makes you root for it anyways. It's like watching a straight-to-video version of Heat, written by a college kid on a Red Bull bender. It's fast, it's flawed, and somehow fun. Now, this movie asks the question, what if your substitute teacher was a mercenary on vacation with a vendetta and enough short sleeve button downs to fill out a teacher's wardrobe? That teacher would be Tom Berenger, and the movie, of course, would be The Substitute from 1996, also starring Ernie Hudson and Mark Anthony. The Substitute answers that age-old question, what if your substitute teacher was an ex-mercenary that could snap your neck if you hit him in the back with a spit wad? That's Tom Berenger here, playing this no-nonsense soldier of fortune who infiltrates a troubled Miami high school to take down a drug-dealing gang operated by all 115 pounds of pure tough guy and Mark Anthony. The concept is gloriously absurd, yet it's executed with the kind of stone-faced intensity that just makes it weirdly compelling. Here, Berenger is all business. He's delivering monologues about justice like he's addressing a war tribunal, and the students are just cartoonishly hostile. It's like Dangerous Minds with prison rules. It's just a strange cocktail of social commentary and violence wrapped in a vibe that just screams direct-to-video, but proud of it. You got Ernie Hudson here playing the principal with just enough of a sinister charm to just make you appreciate what he brings to a film. The action is tight, the bracing is brisk, and there's just something deeply satisfying about watching Tom Berenger roll into homeroom like it's a war zone. The substitute doesn't just suspend disbelief, it kidnaps it holds it for ransom, and just demands a dramatic locker room finale, and it results in a timeless B classic, in my opinion. This 1997 action romp throws the city's most dangerous criminals into a prison death match with a buffet of weapons, endless ammo, and a grilled up Ice-T calling the shots. Think battle royal with more trench coats and a bleached blonde Christopher Lambert in Albert Pune's stylish bonanza of violence, Mean Guns. Now imagine if Fortnite was a film noir fever dream hosted by Ice-T wearing costume jewelry grills. That's what you get with Mean Guns. It's set in a newly constructed prison with a simple plot. 100 criminals have betrayed the syndicate, and they're given weapons and guns and told to eliminate each other for a big cash prize totaling $10 million. So it's really survival of the least stable, with endless violence and bravado and elevator jazz and bullets and blood flying like confetti. You get Christopher Lambert strutting around in his sunglasses and a bleached out do, seeming to be in his happy place, with Ice-T just delivering cryptic threats and dripping with cool, because why not? Mean Guns is a movie that makes very little sense and it doesn't care. What it does offer instead is non-stop action, quirky energy, and an unapologetic love of slow motion gunfights. There's just something mesmerizing about the way it blends shootouts with just bizarro musical cues. It's like someone smashed up a Tarantino flick with a late night cable commercial. The dialogue is sparse, the logic is optional, and character development is mostly conveyed through who's still standing at the end. And yet, despite its madness, Mean Guns just has a strange charm to it. It's a movie that knows exactly what it is. It's loud, it's weird, and just wildly entertaining in all of its chaotic glory. In 1990, Jean-Claude Van Damme would go undercover inside of a prison wearing an outfit easily 2 sizes too small, and would go on to roundhouse kick his way through every cardboard bad guy and corrupt prison worker that got in his way in Death Warrant, also starring Cynthia Gibb and Robert Guillaume. Now, Death Warrant is a very straightforward film. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme going undercover into a prison to investigate a series of inmate deaths, who ends up having to kick the absolute crap out of anybody who gets in his way, and the result, albeit recycled, is still a fun, pleasantly gritty mix of martial arts violence with 80s action themes and just prison noir vibes, with Van Damme doling out justice behind bars and barely breaking a sweat in his Canadian tuxedo. The grimy prison setting gives everything from claustrophobic tension to this movie to shadowy ambush points to give hurdles for our hero, to a Thunderdome-esque setting for a fiery stadium-style final showdown. The Sandman here is fantastic as the just cartoonishly sadistic villain. This kid scared the crap out of me as a kid, so he just adds that right touch of evil gusto to all the proceedings, and the inmates provide just a variety pack of colorful personalities, each with their own brand of menace. I think this movie is well paced. It's just a hard-hitting ride that proves Van Damme could just carry a plot just as easily as he could land a flying kick. Death Warrant doesn't reinvent the genre, it just chest kicks it into the incinerator, then just basks in the violence through the satisfaction of slow motion. Here, Mario Van Peebles is a rogue military cyborg with a heart in 1996's Solo, a movie that blends jungle warfare with sci-fi action and just enough emotion for Solo to help a village being attacked by rebels, all while being pursued by its creators, led by a delightfully charismatic William Sadler, who easily knew what the assignment was in this movie. Now, if you toss The Terminator, The Universal Soldier, and a self-help book about personal growth into a blender, that smoothie might taste something like Solo. Here, Van Peebles plays the super soldier cyborg who grows a conscience and decides not to kill anymore, which, unfortunately for his creators, kind of renders him useless, and what follows is a jungle set action adventure with explosions and gunfire, and Solo awkwardly trying to understand human emotion between all the napalm strikes. Van Peebles, to his credit, does play it straight, which makes his robotic dialogue surprisingly endearing, and it makes his one-liners land somewhere between accidentally wise and inspired by a fortune cookie. The military villains here are cartoonishly evil. The science is hilariously vague, but the pacing moves fast enough that you won't have time to question the logistics of a robot developing empathy in 48 hours. There's even a heartfelt bond between him and a small village, which Solo defends like a bionic babysitter with a heart of gold. I mean, Solo is as silly as it is sincere, but that's part of the charm of this one. It may not break new ground in AI ethics, but it results in a comic book movie without the comic book source material that delivers all the action you could ask for within a tight 90 minutes. The Perfect Weapon delivers Jeff Speakman in full Kenpo Fury mode, where every problem, emotional or criminal, is solved with a swift elbow strike as he takes on the mob to avenge a fallen friend in a delightfully generic actioner that also stars James Hone, Mako, and Mariska Hargitay. Jeff Speakman arrives in The Perfect Weapon with his black belt in Kenpo and the kind of intensity that says, I do all of my own stunts and I taught myself how to act. I think The Perfect Weapon is a classic but simple revenge tale. I mean, his mentor is killed and Speakman decides to karate his way through the criminal underworld in pursuit of justice. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, but I do think what sets this movie apart from many of the others is the speed and the ferocity of the fight scenes here. They're choreographed to show off some real solid Kenpo techniques rather than just a bunch of Hollywood fluff. Speakman's fists are moving faster than most people can blink, and he's got that stoic charisma of a guy who's just one bad day away from quitting acting, opening his own dojo. The plot is paint by numbers, but the energy is all there. It's got grimy streets, smoky nightclubs, and a lot of guys getting dramatically thrown through windows. The soundtrack is just peak early 90s with synth stabs and electric guitar solos that just scream a training montage is coming soon. The Perfect Weapon does not try to be clever. It tries to be ultra cool, and with its stripped down, hands-on approach to the action, it gets there sans ultra. In this one, Dolph Lundgren breaks out of prison and into high-octane car chases and shootouts. In 1993's Joshua Tree, known to some of you as Army of One, a desert-set action flick where justice comes complete with exotic cars, corrupt cops, and a high body count. This movie also stars George Segal, Jeffrey Lewis, and Christian Alfonso. Dolph Lundgren is a one-man demolition crew where plot takes a backseat to tire screeches and slow-motion gunfire. Here, Lundgren plays a wrongfully accused ex-race car driver turned fugitive who unknowingly kidnaps a cop that just so happens to also look like a model, and they head out into the sun-scorched desert to clear his name. This movie is about as subtle as a bazooka, and that's exactly why it works. I mean, every frame in this film is kind of shot like a Marlboro ad or a Bugle Boys jeans commercial, with sweeping desert vistas and just muscle cars tearing across open highways, and Lundgren squinting into the sun like he's challenging it to a fight. The plot delivers betrayal and chase sequences and bad guys and cops in pursuit and plenty of bullet-flavored justice. Director Vic Armstrong, to his credit, he keeps the stunts practical and keeps the tone just serious enough to keep a straight face, while the romantic subplot smolders in the background like a cigarette in a gas station. Joshua Tree, to me, is kind of a throwback to the days when action heroes didn't need superpowers, it just needed horsepower, heavy artillery, and a smoldering scowl. Free Jack from 1992 rockets Emilio Estevez into a weird future where Mick Jagger is a bounty hunter and body-snatching billionaires just can't mind their business in the neon-soaked cyberpunk fever dream that also stars Rene Russo and Sir Anthony Hopkins. Set inside of a grimy, overpopulated future where time travel is used to snatch bodies for the rich, Jack is just one of those weird, eccentric, clunky, yet oddly charming sci-fi action mashups from the era. Estevez plays this race car driver who's pulled from the past just moments before a fatal crash, only to wake up in a dystopia where his body is prime real estate for a dying tycoon, played by Anthony Hopkins, presumably as a favor or a dare, who knows. Mick Jagger pops into this one as well as the world's most unbothered bounty hunter. Jack is just wild and fun. The effects are rough around the edges, the tech talk is bonkers, and the world building kind of seems to change depending on the scene, but somehow Jack just keeps moving with a delightfully strange momentum. Estevez is likable in the lead and a why am I in this movie kind of way, as is Rene Russo. It's not a sleek movie, it's not a smart movie, but Jack has a vibe, and sometimes that's enough when you want to sit down for a fun, vibrant B-action movie that overestimates the future capabilities of 2009 in essentially every way possible. Chuck Norris plays it cool and lethal in 1991's The Hitman, going balls deep undercover to clean up the mob, and he's bringing his trench coat, a bulletproof beard, and a shotgun full of one-liners in this action flick that also stars Al Waxman and Alberta Watson. Here, Chuck Norris goes undercover and under the radar in The Hitman, where he plays a stoic, tough guy embedded deep within the criminal underworld, wearing a trench coat and rocking a beard that could probably repel bullets. Norris just blends tough guy grit with an, at times, after-school special level of sensitivity. It's a more measured performance from the action icon, but there's nothing to worry about. There's still plenty of roundhouse kicks and shootouts and well-timed squints to escalate the body count nicely. The film tries to add emotional weight with a subplot involving a bullied kid, which gives Norris some time to gives him some comically tender moments between bouts of bullet slinging justice. The villains in this one range from sleazy to sadistic, and the pacing keeps things lean and mean. The Hitman's not a flashy movie, but it is a steady one. Like if The Departed was written by someone who really loved Walker, Texas Ranger, the movie doesn't break the mold by any means, but it does polish it, loads it with ammo, and it does shoot crime right in the face. In this one, Howie Long fights fire with his jawline and unstoppable fireman skills in 1998's Firestorm, playing a heroic smoke jumper caught between two raging infernos and even more dangerous escaped convicts. This forgotten gem also stars Scott Glenn and William Forsythe. Here, Howie Long trades touchdowns for takedowns as a fearless smoke jumper battling escaped convicts between two raging forest fires. Yes, you heard that correctly. This movie is essentially Die Hard meets Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires, and it's gloriously over the top. I think Howie Long is surprisingly solid as the lead in this movie. He delivers all of his lines with the conviction of a man who has been in a locker room speech or two. He never really got a full shot at being an action hero. Maybe he didn't want one, but he was good in this movie regardless, though. The real MVP of Firestorm is the fire. It's everywhere, it's angry, some of it's practical, most of it's digital, and it gives every scene a sense of blazing urgency. The bad guys are a treat here as well, led by William Forsythe, who's just chewing scenery like it's his last meal, and I think the action's fun. It has a variety to it. There's explosions and fight scenes and chase sequences, desperate mid-air rescue, harrowing escapes, and fire axes. This one really throws it all at you. It's the kind of movie where physics take a nap and common sense gets singed, but it's never boring. I think Firestorm is a blast of 90s adrenaline with flames and fists and flannel, and honestly, it earns every melodramatic spark. Get ready to cash out or get taken out. 1997's Top of the World deals you a Vegas-set thriller where Peter Weller plays an ex-con caught in a casino heist gone sideways with his soon-to-be ex-wife played by Tia Carrere, while Dennis Hopper soaks in the fluorescent-lit scenery like he's getting paid 5 times as much as everybody else. Top of the World drops Peter Weller into a casino heist gone wrong with a side of romantic tension because Really, nothing rekindles a marriage like dodging bullets behind slot machines and card tables. Here, Weller plays a freshly paroled ex cop whose bad timing just lands him right in the middle of a robbery during a weekend in Vegas with his estranged wife, Tia Carrere. Dennis Hopper pops in with peak unhinged Hopper energy, commanding a crew of criminals with all the subtlety of a wrecking ball. This movie is part noir, part Die Hard in a casino, and somehow still finds time for some relationship therapy. It's a low-budget caper that runs on charisma and chaos and a surprising amount of elevator shaft action. The plot is as twisty as a casino floor, but if you're here for a gritty crime thriller with an effective B glossy action sheen, then you've hit the jackpot. Just don't bet on realism. In 1996's Fled, Lawrence Fishburne and Stephen Baldwin are chained together in a high-speed, high-energy buddy fugitive romp that mixes hacker espionage, biker gangs, wisecracks, and a splash of romance, all while on the run. It's basically The Defiant Ones written on mini thins and Mountain Dew. Fled pairs Lawrence Fishburne and Stephen Baldwin as mismatched convicts on the run in a movie that admittedly does feel like it came out of a 90s action movie vending machine, but I do mean that in the best way. I mean, Fishburne clearly does the heavy lifting to no surprise, while Baldwin kind of plays the wisecracking hacker with a past, a floppy disk, and a tendency to run headfirst into trouble. There's a high-speed motorcycle chase that's fun, a techno MTV aesthetic, and more double crosses than an episode of a soap opera. It's a buddy comedy movie that tries to blend The Defiant Ones with Enemy of the State, but doesn't quite hack it, pun intended. Still, though, does have that fun late-night cable charm to it, working in its favor. It's got a young Salma Hayek shoehorned into the story, and enough explosions to keep your living room lit up on a dark night at home in front of the television. Hollow Point from 1996 is the buddy comedy movie that nobody asked for, but maybe should have. It features Donald Sutherland, Tia Carrere, and Thomas Ian Griffith trading gunfire and wisecracks while chasing a money-laundering mob boss in a B-action, bullet-spraying crime fest that's fueled on a high body count and just a buffet of word salad banter. Hollow Point is pretty much what you get when you throw Donald Sutherland, Thomas Ian Griffith, and Tia Carrere into a blender, add a dash of Lethal Weapon, and turn it on with no lid. This is a buddy comedy movie by the way of slapstick noir, featuring Griffith as a loose cannon agent and Sutherland as a philosophy-spouting hitman who's kind of over it all. Tia Carrere gets to be both brainy and badass as the femme fatale accountant, because in the 90s, tax fraud was sexy. Now, this movie can't decide if it's parody or homage, which actually becomes part of its charm. There are explosions, double crosses, and enough winking banter to qualify as floor play, and it all keeps a swift pace, which is its strong suit. Hollow Point is self-aware in the goofiest of ways, and while it may not have made the A-list, it owns its B-movie badge with style and honor. In 1995's The Hunted, Christopher Lambert finds himself the target of ninja assassins in Japan after a one-night stand goes wrong in a movie that is essentially a stealthy love letter to gratuitous swordplay and smoky rooftop chases, with Joan Chen and John Lone filling out the focal cast. The Hunted is the Christopher Lambert ninja thriller that, as I've said before, you didn't know you needed and possibly still don't, yet here we are. Lambert plays a businessman who has one passionate night in Japan with Joan Chen, which in itself is highly commendable. The problem is he wakes up targeted by a clan of highly trained assassins, as one often can. John Lone shows up as a ninja warlord who's mastered both the blade and finding his best dramatic lighting, and what follows is a moody, blood-spattered chase through temples and rooftops and speeding trains, with Lambert squinting his way through it all like he's still processing his Highlander days. The movie takes itself seriously, which kind of only enhances its B-movie glory, in my opinion. It's atmospheric, it's oddly seductive, and just full of katana-swinging mayhem. Basically, it's a perfume commercial with a high body count, and I kind of enjoy that. The Expert from 1995 stars Jeff Speakman as a vigilante martial artist slash ex-special forces trainer who infiltrates a medical facility ran by James Brolin to confront his sister's killer who got away. So basically think Shawshank Redemption, but with more lethal spin kicks, heavy gunfire, and a hefty dollop of steaming hot macho cheese poured all over it. Jeff Speakman in The Expert delivers a justice-fueled karate beatdown inside of a mental facility prison, which, to be honest, sounds like a dream someone had after watching Under Siege, Death Warrant, and Walker, Texas Ranger back to back to back. Here, Speakman is a vigilante ex-special forces type whose sister's been murdered by a sadistic killer, so naturally he responds by getting himself tossed into the same facility, which is ran by a ruthless warden played up with great charm by James Brolin. The Expert, to me, is like the County Monte Cristo meets American Gladiators, but with fewer rules and a ton more roundhouse kicks. This movie's budget clearly did go to the fight choreographer and the smoke machine, but that's okay. Speakman's fists and feet do all the talking. This plot is humorously bonkers, and the dialogue is straight from the macho revenge playbook, so less is a good thing. And to me, The Expert really leans into its absurdity and lands a punch right in the B-action movie sweet spot. Chill Factor from 1999 is the buddy road chase movie that you never really knew you needed until you watched it, where Skeet Ulrich and Cuba Gooding Jr. must keep a deadly chemical weapon from exploding by literally keeping it cold in a refrigerated truck while a group of terrorists pursue them. That's it. Now sure, Chill Factor is basically Speed, but instead of a bus, it's a chemical weapon inside of an ice cream truck, and yes, it's somehow even more ridiculous than it sounds, but that's sort of why this movie is such a good time, in my opinion. Skeet Ulrich and Cuba Gooding Jr. are playing two very unwilling heroes who are forced to keep a bioweapon from overheating or it will explode with a 10-mile kill radius. It's humorous, the clock is ticking, and the thermometer is dropping as fast as the logic, yet Gooding's frantic charm plays off of Ulrich's grungy stoicism to result in a mismatched buddy dynamic that somehow holds this whole frozen mess together. It's got explosions, it's got military conspiracies, and one-liners delivered like they're trying to defrost your brain. Chill Factor may be cold on the science, but it's hot on the stylized late 90s action chaos, exactly what you expect when you order from the genre's weird end of the decade menu on a streaming service. Double Trouble from 1992 gives us twin bodybuilders played by actual twins, David and Peter Paul, who take on jewel thieves and hitmen and commit fashion crimes against humanity in a buddy cop flick that's all brawn, biceps, and undersized shirts with more flexing than at a gym the day after New Year's. Double Trouble brings us bodybuilding twins David and Peter Paul, one as a cop, the other as a criminal, because clearly the movie Twins needed more steroids, smaller sweatshirts, and fewer punchlines. The script here feels like it was scribbled down during a protein shake binge, and every line is delivered with the sincerity of a Mr. Olympia posing routine, yet somehow it just all works in its low-budget glory. The movie is a glorious train wreck of just hair-sprayed hair, slow-motion fights, feats of strength, brotherly biceps, and it just lives up to its VHS promise of being complete muscle-bound madness. High art? Absolutely not, but it's hard to frown when the Paul twins are kicking in doors and tossing bad guys like medicine balls, all in an effort to smash crime and rekindle their brotherly love, while also catching the eye of a few ladies along the way in a peak early 90s, still living in the 80s movie that if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. In 1990's martial law, Chad McQueen teams up with Cynthia Rothrock to kick their way through a crime ring, delivering street justice one knockout at a time in an early 90s action romp that delivers an endless supply of spin kicks, a splash of sexual tension, and David Carradine packing an adorable death punch. After his training from Kreese in the Cobra Kai, Chad McQueen would turn cop and deliver small-budget justice in martial law alongside the ever-kicking Cynthia Rothrock. They're cops dealing with the criminal cartel ring run by David Carradine, who plays a villain with just rocking silk shirts and possessing his finisher, the homicidal death touch. The plot is your standard bad guys steal stuff, good guys kick them, but Rothrock's martial arts prowess brings enough heat to keep things fun, and McQueen plays his role with just a charming dad energy, even when he's roundhousing someone through something at any given point in time. The movie is more interested in karate than courtroom procedure, and that's exactly the point. Martial law is early 90s action comfort food. It's greasy, fast, gone before you can question the dialogue. I remember watching this movie so many times as a kid, and it's still a blast of nostalgia all these years later. Post-apocalyptic Elvis impersonators, sword fights, and a guitar-wielding warrior, Six String Samurai from 1998 starring Jeffrey Falcon is a gloriously weird rock and roll odyssey through a nuclear wasteland where style matters more than survival, as one guitar-wielding swordsman will shred his way to Vegas in the strangest road trip movie you will ever watch. Now, Six String Samurai is what happens when a post-apocalyptic fever dream collides with kung fu, rockabilly, and art house ambition. Jeffrey Falcon plays a Buddy Holly-esque swordman just shredding his way to Vegas after a nuclear war has turned America into a pretty much a Mad Max talent show, and along the way he fights mutants, bowlers, and death itself. It's a visually wild movie. It's narratively loose, but strangely touching beneath all of the absurdity. The movie's micro-budget creativity and its genre mashup spirit really do work together, and it makes it just like really unlike anything else in the B-action realm. It's less about plot and more about vibe, and with frenetic action and a buffet of wildly eccentric characters, this is a movie that you can watch that will stick with you long after the end credits have rolled. Drive from 1997 is a high-octane martial arts joyride with Mark Dacascos as a cyber-enhanced fugitive and Kadeem Hardison as his unwilling sidekick, who together will blaze through an adrenaline-fueled buddy chase movie with futuristic implants, awesome martial arts, and more flips in a pancake house on a Sunday morning. You know, I would say that Drive is hands down one of the slickest B-action movies to come out of the 90s, and it's thanks to Mark Dacascos' gravity-defying fight scenes and the criminally underrated chemistry that he shares with Kadeem Hardison. Dacascos here plays a cyber-enhanced man on the run from assassins, government agents, and probably gravity itself. The plot is your standard techno-fugitive chase setup, but what elevates Drive really is the skillful martial arts choreography and this film's self-aware sense of humor. It's like Rush Hour had a baby with RoboCop and raised it on caffeine and gave it a sweet leather jacket from the Squire shop. The action is relentless, it's surprisingly inventive, and just way too good for a movie that flew this far under the radar. If you love B-action movies that swing for the fences, Drive hits like a spinning back kick to the face with many sequences that will have you up in your seat. And that wraps up this episode of Awesome 90s B-action movies, where the explosions are plentiful, the roundhouse kicks are mandatory, and plot logic takes a backseat to pure adrenaline. These B-action gems may not have dominated the box office, but they sure did dominate our VHS shelves and our hearts. From guitar-wielding warriors to twin bodybuilders taking down crime, the 90s gave us a wild ride of over-the-top characters and unforgettable set pieces. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little mini-series looking back at some of the great B-action flicks from the decade. I have some new videos coming around the corner real soon, so until then, keep the tape rewound and the action dialed all the way up.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?